The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met Jordan's King Abdullah as he makes another tour of the Middle East to stem the fallout following the ouster of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. According to the U.S. State Department, Mr. Blinken is hoping to secure consensus among regional leaders on key principles for Syria's post-Assad transition. Syria is now led by caretaker Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir. He has the task of overseeing the interim government until March next year. He has pledged to protect minority rights in the country and called on the millions who fled the war to return home. Meanwhile, the main commander of HTS, now that is the most dominant rebel group that ousted the former president, says he will dissolve security forces of the Assad regime, close down its prisons and hunt down anyone involved in the torture or killing of detainees. Syria ran one of the most oppressive police states in the Middle East during 5 decades of the Assad family rule. Many residents have since flocked to the infamous prisons where tens of thousands of detainees were held to look for their loved ones. Now we're joined by Philip Crowther, who joins us live in the Syrian capital of Damascus. Philip, the new caretaker Prime Minister, that's Mohammed al-Bashir. Now, he has been appointed. He's taken over in just under about 36 hours. He has the onerous task of healing divisions and forging unity. What have his priorities been so far that we know of?
Well, I think one of the priorities certainly was for there to be an orderly transition. And I think there is already a sense of achievement here among the rebels who are now essentially the government, that this transition has been peaceful and has been smooth. As you mentioned, at its head of this transition government is Mohammed al-Bashir. He is a member of that rebel faction that took control of Damascus last weekend. He is the most important person here, but also involved in discussions and meetings is the cabinet. There are ministers from the government that was in place during the rule of Bashar al-Assad who are still part of this transition government. That is quite remarkable. We were hoping to hear from Mohammed al-Bashir today. A press conference, though, has been postponed. He has, though, spoken to the Al Jazeera news network. In that interview, he says that he pledges to protect minority rights here in Syria. That is significant. This is, after all, an Islamist government that is taking over from Bashar al-Assad. He also, al-Bashir, pledged to bring security to Syria, and he also called on Syrians to return to work in an orderly way. But not everybody. He says he will be seeking justice for those, quote, whose hands are stained with blood. He means, of course, those who collaborated with the Assad regime, most notably the military. In the meantime, there are huge changes on the ground here after this very swift transition here in Syria. For example, the whole Russian Navy fleet that was based on the coast of Syria has now already left, according to a U.S. official. It was, of course, Russia and Iran who effectively propped up the government of Bashar al-Assad until his ouster at the weekend. We're also seeing more countries now pledging to reopen their embassies, and Syria appears to almost officially now have a new flag as well. It's the opposition flag that now flies over government buildings here in the capital, Damascus. These are huge, swift changes for a country that was in a state of civil war for almost 14 years. And a reminder, it still is.
Another example of this huge change we have seen is the shutting down of notorious prisons in Syria, prison network, in fact. And we're seeing reports of a U.S. national, he was in the area southeast of Damascus, who claims to have been imprisoned for the last 7 months. Do we have any more details on that?
Yeah, that U.S. citizen is not Austin Tice, is the first thing that's worth saying here. This is the journalist who disappeared here near the capital, Damascus, 12 years ago. His family has said for the whole time, and has said it again very clearly, that they believe he is alive here in Syria and could very well be held in a prison of the regime of Bashar al-Assad. There have been 3 U.S. administrations already who have pledged to do everything they can to get him back to the United States, with no success so far. That search is very much ongoing. But yes, you're right, a U.S. citizen has been freed from one of those Assad jails here in the capital, Damascus. He said he crossed into Syria on foot on a pilgrimage. He also says that he was treated well in an interview with the Al Arabiya news channel. That even 5 days after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad, that still detainees can be found in the many jails here in the capital Damascus, but also in other parts of Syria.
Well, thanks to Philip Crowther reporting live from Damascus.